Welcome to Stillwater Chronicles. Tonight, we settle into a story about a man who was told everything and learned that knowing changes nothing. There is something about a long, straight road that does something to the mind. Not a winding road. Those keep you busy, keep you leaning into the next bend, keep you present. But a straight road, a flat road, one that simply continues without apology into a gray and diminishing distance. A road like that invites the mind to drift, to uncouple from the body and float somewhere just above the windscreen, watching the white lane markings tick past like seconds on a clock you've stopped paying attention to. Jake had been driving for 2 hours when he saw the man. The road cut straight through the flatlands east of Ghent, field after field of sugar beet, low and dark in the failing light, stretching out to a horizon that was little more than a suggestion. The sky above was the color of old pewter, pressed low and close, as if it were resting on the tops of the occasional poplar trees that lined the farm tracks. There were no other cars. There had been no other cars for some time. Just Jake. And the road. And the slow blink of the amber warning lights. At a junction he was already past. The man was standing on the verge, just beyond a farm track that disappeared into the beet fields. He had his arm out, not urgently, not desperately, just extended, the way a person holds out a hand to check for rain. He was older, 60 perhaps. Neat dark coat, a small bag on the ground beside him. He looked from a distance like a man who was simply waiting for something he had already arranged. Jake did not usually stop for hitchhikers. He slowed anyway. He told himself later that it was the coat. Something about the neatness of it. Something about the way the man did not move as the car pulled over. Did not step forward eagerly. Did not adjust his bag. Did not smile with relief. He simply waited for the car to come to him, as though he had always known it would. The door opened. The man picked up his bag, small, brown leather, the kind that closes with a brass clasp, and settled into the passenger seat with the ease of someone returning to a familiar chair. "Thank you," he said. His voice was quiet, measured. The accent was Belgian, but faint, worn smooth by time or travel. "Where are you headed?" Jake asked. "The next junction will do," the man said. Jake nodded and pulled back onto the road. The engine settled. The beet fields resumed their slow, dark procession. The sky pressed lower. They drove in silence for a while. It was not an uncomfortable silence. That was the thing Jake would return to later. The way the silence felt easy, companionable even, despite the fact that he knew nothing about this man. And the man had said almost nothing about himself. There was something about his stillness that was simply restful, like sitting beside someone who has decided, completely, not to perform. Jake watched the road. The man watched the fields. The amber light was thickening now as dusk came on properly, turning the sugar beet to something almost bronze. The man spoke. "You will die on a Tuesday," he said. "In March. Not this March." Jake's hands stayed on the wheel. His foot did not move on the accelerator. Some part of him, he would think later, simply did not believe what he had heard. Or rather, believed it entirely, immediately, in the way that a true thing sometimes lands before the rational mind has time to object. "I'm sorry," he said. "The morning will be clear," the man continued in the same unhurried voice. "Cold, but clear. There will have been frost the night before. The roads will be dry, though. That won't be the difficulty. Jake opened his mouth. Nothing came out. The last person you speak to will be a woman named Elise. You will not know her well. She will be in the street outside a pharmacy. You will hold the door for her. She will thank you. That will be the last thing. A small kindness. And then a thank you. The road. The fields. The pewter sky. You will not be frightened, the man said. I want you to know that. At the moment itself, you will not be frightened at all. Jake said, Who are you? That doesn't matter. Not unkindly. Simply a statement of fact. How do you... He stopped. He didn't know how to finish the sentence. How do you know? How do you know any of this? How can you know? The junction is here, the man said. Jake had not seen it coming, but there it was, a crossroads, a single sodium lamp just beginning to glow orange in the dusk, two unmarked roads running left and right into the fields. He slowed instinctively and pulled to the side of the road. His hands were very still on the wheel. The man unclasped his bag. He looked inside briefly, as though confirming something. Then he closed it again and opened the car door. Wait, Jake said. The man paused, half in, half out. Is there anything... Jake stopped again. Is there anything I can do to change it? The man looked at him. His eyes were pale and unhurried and entirely, somehow, without malice. You held the door, he said. For Elise. That's what you did. He got out. He picked up his bag. He closed the door with a soft, definitive click. Jake watched him in the rear-view mirror as he walked away, down one of the unmarked roads between the fields, until the dusk simply absorbed him. He sat at the junction for a long time. Then he drove. He did not tell anyone. He thought about it. Thought about calling his sister, his friend Davy, the woman he had been seeing for 3 months who laughed at things he said and made him feel briefly, pleasantly unalone. He thought about how the conversation would go. And in every version of it, he watched their faces shift. That small, careful rearrangement that happens when someone wonders whether you are well. And he said nothing. Instead, he checked the weather. He checked it every morning. First thing, before his phone had finished loading. Before he had decided whether to stay in bed another 5 minutes. March, specifically. Every March morning. He would scroll to the forecast and look at the temperature. Was it cold? Had there been frost? Was the sky clear? And then he would feel something loosen in his chest when the day came back overcast, or mild, or wet. And he would tell himself, not this one. He became, without quite meaning to, a man who paid attention. He noticed the cold mornings with a different quality of attention than he had before. He noticed frost on car roofs. He noticed clear skies in March with a particular, low-grade alertness. The way a person notices a sound in the house at night. Probably nothing. Almost certainly nothing. And yet, he noticed pharmacies. He noticed every woman who thanked him for anything. A door, a dropped bag, giving way at a roundabout. He tried not to think about the name Elise. He tried very hard not to catalog every Elise he knew. Every Elise he might one day meet. He failed at that. April was better. May was better. Summer was almost like before. He would go weeks without thinking of the man in the neat dark coat. Weeks without reaching for his phone before he was properly awake. And he would feel something almost like relief, and wonder whether he had somehow moved past it. Then February would begin to tip toward March, and the mornings would sharpen, and the frost would come, and he would feel it again. That low, settled weight, like a stone placed carefully at the base of his chest. He held doors for people. He had always held doors for people, he thought. But now he did it consciously, deliberately, with a small, private attention. He looked at the faces of the women he held doors for. He listened for names. He didn't know whether he was hoping to find her or hoping not to. Years passed this way, 3 of them, then 4. The road through the flatlands began to feel like something from another life, a dream he had mostly forgotten, preserved only in its feeling rather than its detail. He could still see the beat fields, the pressed down sky, the man's pale, unhurried eyes. But the details at the edges were softening. He thought sometimes about what the man had said at the end. You held the door. For Elise. That's what you did. Not that's what you will do. What you did. Past tense. He had turned that over so many times it had almost worn smooth. What did it mean that the man had spoken of it in the past? That it was already decided? That it had, in some sense, already happened? And the March morning was simply the moment he would arrive at what was already, in some other register of time, complete? He did not know. He had learned to live inside the not knowing. It was on a Tuesday, a different Tuesday, an April Tuesday, clear and cool and innocent, that he was walking past a pharmacy in Bruges, a city he visited sometimes for work, and he held the door for a woman who was coming out. She was, perhaps, 45, dark hair, a small bag under her arm. "Thank you," she said, and then in English, catching something in his face. "Thank you." Jake stood very still. "What's your name?" he said. He said it before he thought about whether to say it, the way a sleeping person speaks. She looked at him with the cautious, assessing look of someone who has been approached unexpectedly in the street. Then something in his face, some quality of his stillness perhaps, or the plainness of the question, made her answer. "Elise," she said, "the street, the clear April light. A tram moving somewhere behind him, its bell ringing once, briefly, then gone. Are you all right?" Elise said. "Yes," he said. "Yes, I'm sorry. He shook his head gently. "I thought I recognized you." She looked at him for a moment longer, then moved on. He watched her go. He stood outside the pharmacy until she had rounded the corner, and the street was ordinary again, and the April light was just April light. Not this Tuesday, then. He breathed. He began to walk. The city continued around him. The cobblestones, the canal smell, the tourists with their cameras, the ordinariness of a Tuesday afternoon in a beautiful old place. He walked without direction for a while. He bought a coffee he didn't particularly want, and sat on a bench beside the water, and watched the light change on the surface. He thought, "I held the door. he thought. That's what I did. And for the first time, the very first time in all those years of checking forecasts and noticing frost and cataloging names, he felt something that was not quite fear and not quite peace, but something between. Something softer. Something like a sentence reaching its natural end. The canal moved. The light shifted. A bird landed on the water and lifted again. He sat a while longer. Then he finished his coffee and stood and walked on into the afternoon, into whatever came next. Not this March, not this Tuesday, not today. And the city held him in its old, patient streets. And the world continued as it does, without urgency. And somewhere, in a field east of Ghent, a single sodium lamp at an unmarked crossroads blinked on in the dark. And the beet fields were still. And the road went on. Thank you for listening to Stillwater Chronicles, where even the things we are told cannot prepare us for the moment we arrive. If this stillness stayed with you, if the flat road and the gray sky and the pale eyes of a stranger settled somewhere deep, then let it remain a little while longer. Some knowledge, after all, does not change what we do, only how carefully we notice it. Rest now. The road will take you where you need to go.